Hello everyone, it's Dylan from YuGiOh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So we have been doing a lot of statistic-based videos here on this channel recently, and in today's video we have another stat-based video, and in that video we are going to be looking at which Yu-Gi-Oh anime featured the most amount of total duels. Obviously, duels are incredibly important, if not the only main core that every Yu-Gi-Oh series has, but I'm sure a few of you guys, just like me, have wondered which of the 7 shows actually has the most amount of duels. We're also going to be looking at which shows have the highest and lowest episodes per duel ratio, which is basically just taking the total amount of duels and dividing it by the total amount of episodes that that show had to find out what their episodes per duel number was, because obviously all 7 Yu-Gi-Oh shows, Duel Monsters all the way through Sevens, have had different amounts of episodes. Let's go over the criteria very quickly. So I'm counting anything that works as a duel, including flashback duels, as long as most of those duels were shown. So for instance, Yusei versus Jack in the flashback, where Jack beats Yusei, we don't really see anything about that duel, so that is not going to be included. But Jack versus Dragon in the flashback, which we see 3 full turns of, that would be included. A duel basically needs to have like 2 or 3 turns that were shown for it to count, and that does work for flashback duels. For intruder duels in Yu-Gi-Oh Arc 5, I'm only counting that as 1 duel. So the Zark versus everyone duel does not count as 9 separate duels. It's just 1 continuous duel that other duelists happen to interfere. I'm not counting that as separate duels. The 5Ds riding duels, I am only counting those as 1 duel. So Team 5Ds versus Team Taio, that's 1 duel. We're not looking at the individual matchups within those duels. And then finally, if there are like monster battles taking place outside of a normal duel setting, like we see a lot in the final arc of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, those are not counting as duels either. We are only looking at traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Based duels. And so that's a bit of a criteria that I'm looking at for this list. And I will be showing you guys all the duels that I am counting at the end of this video. But without further ado, make sure you make your predictions as to which Yu-Gi-Oh! Series has the most amount of duels. I think the data might surprise you a little bit, especially with how close some of these shows are. There are 4 of the 7 shows that have between 79 and 81 duels, and I am not making that up. But without further ado, let's get into it. I hope you guys enjoy. Coming in last is YuGiOh Reigns with 56 duels. So there are a few reasons why YuGiOh Reigns is in last. And by the way, Reigns is in last by over 20 duels. It has 23 less duels than the 6th place show on this list. So why does YuGiOh Reigns have so little in terms of total duels? Well, the show was cut most likely 6 months short. At the very least, it was 6 months shorter than 5D's, Xl, and Arc 5. Its predecessors all aired. It was many episodes shorter than GX and Duel Monsters, and even though it was 30 episodes longer than Sevens, YuGiOh Reigns was the last show that featured Master Duels, and so a lot of the duels in YuGiOh Reigns took place over multiple episodes, whereas in a series like Sevens, most of those duels were 1-episode duels. So it doesn't really bode too well for Reigns in a video like this. Another thing that really low-key hurt Reigns was the amount of recap episodes that the show had. The show didn't have a duel in the very first episode, and then they had the recap plague, which struck in episodes 13, 21, 29, and 38. There were a couple of other non-dueling episodes as well down the road. So when you mix all of those factors in together, it makes sense why YuGiOh Reigns by far has the lowest amount of total duels featured in its series. Coming in 6th, the YuGiOh 5Ds with 79 total duels. So YuGiOh 5Ds is really in this cluster. Again, there are 4 shows that are between 79 and 81. This seems to be the sweet spot when it comes to duels in a Yu-Gi-Oh series, right around that 80 number. YuGiOh 5Ds definitely could have had a lot more than 79. They had a lot of the team battles that could have very easily been individual duels, but I'm just counting them as team duels, and so because of that, there were a lot of episodes dedicated to just one long riding duel. 5Ds was also the first show that had two different types of duel. You had the riding/turbo duels and the standing duels, and I feel like the riding duels probably were a bit quicker than the standing duels in a lot of cases. But yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this. This is kind of the sweet spot that you're going to find a lot of the shows in. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, 79 total duels. Tied for fourth is YuGiOh Xl with 80 total duels. And there's not really, again, too much to say here. Xl kind of reverted back to what Duel Monsters and GX did, where you just had mainly the typical standing duels. There were no specialty duels like 5Ds with riding duels and even Vrains with speed duels. And again, this 80 range kind of seems to be the magic number. So YuGiOh Xl, 80 total duels in the series. Another series tied for fourth is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters with 80 total duels. So this one surprised me. I thought Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters would be number 2, and I really believed that just based on the amount of episodes that the series had. Duel Monsters had 224 episodes, over 40 episodes more than YuGiOh GX, which had about 30 more episodes than the 5Ds, Xl, and Arc 5 trio. So I just thought based on the quantity of episodes that we had in this series, Duel Monsters would be very high in terms of the total amount of duels, but it's not. It doesn't even crack the top 3, and there's a myriad of reasons for that. The most important being, there are a lot of stretches of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters where your typical duels don't really happen. A lot of the Kaiba Virtual World arc doesn't have any duels that I'm really counting, and the Millennium World arc, which is the final season, lasts almost 30 episodes and has 3 duels. Yugi versus Bakura, Kaiba versus Bakura, and the ceremonial duel between Yugi and Atem. And so there are just a lot of stretches of this show where your traditional duels don't really take place. On top of that, there are a lot of duels that just take a crazy amount of episode time. Kaiba and Yugi versus Noah lasts about 5 episodes. Yugi versus Kaiba at Battle City, I think, lasts 7 episodes. And so there are just a lot of duels that take an insanely long amount of time, and even though there are 224 episodes of this show, there's just a lot of different reasons why there aren't as many duels as you would think featured when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. And so the original series, to my shock and probably the shock of a lot of you guys, doesn't even crack the top 3 for the most amount of total duels that any show has to offer. Coming in third, Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens with 81 duels. Who would have guessed that the shortest Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, which only had 92 episodes, actually has the third most amount of duels to offer in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise? There's a big reason for this. Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens is the only Yu-Gi-Oh! series on this list to focus on rush duels as opposed to master duels, and rush duels take an insanely quick amount of time. 71 of the 81 duels were 1 episode duels. There were only 10 duels in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens that lasted more than 1 episode, and you want to know how many duels lasted at least 3 episodes? 1. Barely. It was Yuga versus Otis, and even in that final 3-episode battle, you had another duel, which was Yuga versus Luke in episode 92. So that duel barely lasted 3 episodes, and for that reason, Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens really racked up a lot of quick duels, and so crazily enough, the show with 92 episodes has more total duels than the show with 224 episodes. It really is just Rush Duel versus Master Duel, but I still find that to be pretty hysterical. Number 2, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 with 90 total duels. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 does come in second place on this list, and I think the main reason for that, I tried to find the reason as to why Arc 5 had 10 more duels than that sweet spot around, 79 to 81. I think the main reason for that is Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 always stayed within the 2-episode rule. They didn't really let any duels go beyond 2 episodes, which happened a lot in Xl, 5Ds, and of course in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. The first Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 duel that went more than 2 episodes was Yuya versus Barrett, which were episodes 90 through 92, and so because Arc 5 had so little duels go beyond 2 episodes, and really after the Synchro arc, outside of Yuya versus Edo Round 2, from episodes 100 to 119, there were no duels that was more than one episode. So Arc 5 at that point was maybe trying to rush a few of the storylines forward, but they really had a lot of duels that were one episodes. And so for those reasons, I think that's why Arc 5 had 10 more duels than kind of your average sweet spot, and it does have 90 total duels in the series. And coming in first, I don't think to anyone's surprise, is YuGiOh GX with 133 total duels. That is more than 40 duels higher than the second highest show on this list, which only had 90 total duels. So YuGiOh GX absolutely blows away this competition. And I'm sure if we looked at like total wins for a protagonist, which maybe we'll do down the road, I'm sure Judai would be insanely high on that list. And the reason for GX having so many duels is that YuGiOh GX, not only did it have 30 more episodes than 5D's Xl and Arc 5, which I think is important to mention, but it had so many, especially in that first and second season, one-off duels where Judai versed the flavor of the week, smoked him, and then that character went away, never to be seen from or heard of again. And there were so many of those duels that it just compiled into 133 total duels in YuGiOh GX, which is not even close to any of the other shows on this list. I mean, it's almost triple to the amount of duels that YuGiOh Reigns had in it. YuGiOh GX was another show that had a lot of one episode or even 2 episode duels. They didn't really go into those 3, 4, 5 episode slogs all that much. And so that also helps its, number here. But I think the main reason is GX had a lot of one-off duels. They had a lot of one-off characters. It's something I've been a little critical on GX with. I rewatched it not too long ago, and I feel like it does take a little bit of time to get going, and I think you kind of feel the slog of the amount of duels and the amount of ultimately meaningless duels. The problem with having this many duels in a series is there's a lot of duels that just don't really have meaning. Like, I don't really care about Judai versus Sal the Monkey, or Judai versus Taizan, or Judai versus Princess Rose. I mean, there's just so many one-off characters and one-off duels, and that's the reason the GX number is very inflated here. And if we look at the amount of episodes per duel, so again, this is total duels divided by the amount of total episodes, YuGiOh Sevens is obviously in first. Their duel's average length was about 1.1 episodes. Then you have GX, Arc 5, Xl, 5Ds, Reigns, and then Duel Monsters, which on average, a duel took about 2.8 episodes to complete. Now, that's not totally fair because there were a lot of episodes in Duel Monsters that just didn't have duels. There were a few arcs that barely had duels featured in it. So this list is a little more trivial, but the main list we wanted to look at, and we got our answer, is that YuGiOh GX has the most amount of total duels featured with 133, beating out every single show by a very wide margin. And that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. So I told you at the beginning that I would be showing all of the duels on this video. Well, I did lie a little bit. In the description, I have a spreadsheet of every single duel that I counted listed out. You can click on the link in the description and see every duel that I believe qualified for this list. Now, I may have forgotten a couple of duels here and there. I may have counted a duel that maybe you feel I shouldn't have counted. And if you have any kind of questions, definitely leave them down below. I'd love to kind of hear from you guys and hear your opinions. Again, going through over 1,000 episodes of data is not easy. A huge thank you to Fenderbullett and Aki Dream. Fenderbullett compiled a lot of this data. I kind of matched it up with mine, and Aki Dream was a huge help in kind of double checking through everything. She caught a couple of things here and there that she felt should have been added or maybe not added, but it's always good to have some extra eyes. So huge shout outs to them. Would not have been able to make this video if it was not for their help. And a huge shout out to you guys. I hope you guys have been enjoying these fun stat-based videos on the channel. I'm a math nerd. I love math. I love these stats. So please, if you have any other requests, let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, and Jarrett Buller, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood and Latrell Smith, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, Ccapacappuuu and Syn Cloud. To everyone who supports me on Patreon, and to everyone who is a YouTube channel member, thank you so much. The extra support means the world to me, and it allows me to make videos on a semi-daily basis, and I am forever indebted to you guys. Seriously, thank you so much. And definitely check out my channel membership feature and my Patreon for some extra channel perks. And thank you guys all so much for watching. Please leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Be sure to check out my channel for some more Yu-Gi-Oh anime content, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.